So, as promised, Terry and I attended opening day at Fifth Third Field along with thousands of you. So great to see so many of you. Meantime, up in the broadcast booth was my next guest, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Weber, who this weekend will be calling his, you might want to sit down for this, 6,000th game for the Toledo Mud Hens. We think an uneclipsed mark, especially when you consider he's done it all with one team and without ever missing a game. Hall of Famer Jim Weber, you are, sir, the Iron Man. Congrats on this stunning achievement.
Well, thanks a lot, Jerry. I've known you for years. At one time, you actually was my board man. That's how long it's been. And you appreciate it.
And neither of us have aged a day, Jim.
Really? This beard only hides so much. So.
What Jim is referring to, and thanks for bringing this up, we're going back to the 70s. It was WSPD radio. Jim's calling the Mud Hens from out there at Skeldon Stadium. So somebody back at the board has to turn the dials, and that was a young with a lot of hair, Jerry Anderson. And so Jim would do the game, and at the break, he would say, we'll be back with more. The Mud Hens lead it 2-0. We'll be back. And I'd pot him down and run my little commercials. And yeah, that's when we first connected. That amazing streak, Mr. Weber, started back in 1975. And this was kind of your idea.
Well, I got it started. It had been on the air, I think, back in the 60s, and then they couldn't get it on for a long time. And I kind of coordinated the first deal, which wasn't with SPD. That came 3 years later. Okay. But I got it back on the air. And of course, it's been on every year since. There were some lean times when we thought we might not have an outlet, but we always managed to get it on somewhere.
Now, just so we're clear on this, folks, Mr. Weber, he had a job. I recall the days. I remember you worked at Jeep. So this was a sidelight. They weren't doing all the games back then. I think mostly weekend series at the time. I'm guessing if you can think back to then, Jim Weber, you never thought, hey, I may do this for the next 47 years.
No, that never entered my mind. But the fact is, as you said, I think the first year we only did 52. Then when we got on WSPD, we got it up to 80. Yeah. Still build around the weekends, like a Thursday through Sunday, home and away. Okay. And then around 81, I think, is when we finally got all the games on. But we've been on several different stations, Jerry. But again, managed to keep it on every year since 75.
So every game that's been done, they haven't done them all, but every game that has been done featured Mr. Weber. And yeah, you heard me say at the top of this thing, never missed a game. And I know some of you are saying, don't you ever get sick, Jim?
Oh, yeah. As I said, we were out in Denver one year when we played against the old association, Mile High Stadium. I barely got through a game. And then we get rained out, and I had to do a doubleheader the next day. And you ought to seen that. I don't know if I even sounded like myself, but I got through there. Yeah. And that was several years ago. But, Vin Scully, I think, has done more total games, but he never had that consecutive game streak with one team because he switched teams. Yeah. That's why I have the longest streak anywhere with one team.
Being the voice of the Mud Hens became a full-time deal in about 1981, you tell me. So over these nearly 5 decades, Jim, that you've been doing this, you've seen some baseball stars that frankly, they were on their way to start and we didn't know they were stars because you get to see them on their way there. Who stands out? If I can have you name a few over all those decades.
Well, I think one that really stands out was Kirby Puckett. Sure. I think it was 84. We were up in Maine when Maine was in the league, and we had only played about a month, and Kirby did not get off to a good start here. He was only hitting like 263, but the Twins weren't very good, and they wanted to give him a shot. So Cal Irmer, our manager back then, gives me a call in my room because I always got to rent a car. Yeah. He says, well, we got to get Kirby to the airport. I said, for what? Because I didn't know what was going on. They're calling him up. So he met me in the lobby, and he was just as nervous as a you-know-what in church. And he couldn't believe it. He was sweating. He said, he kept calling me, sir. He said, sir, why do you suppose they called me up? I said, who knows? Just get up there, give them a good week or two, and let them know that you're ready. Week or two, he never came back. I'm the last guy that ever saw Kirby Puckett in the minor leagues. Wow. When he got out of the car at the Portland, Maine airport, that was it. Off to stardom.
How about that? It's live broadcasting. I did live TV. I've done live radio. Anything can happen and often does. Any funny stories from your Hall of Fame run, Brother Weber?
I got a good story concerning WSPD. One weekend game in Richmond, we had a young lady, I don't remember her name, thank goodness, that was on the board, the job that you talked about.
Yeah.
And there was a big storm back in Toledo, and it knocked out the power. And apparently she was supposed to go down the hall and turn on the generator. I think they had an emergency generator.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm not leaving the studio. I said, wait, you got to go down there. No, I can't see 5 inches in front of my nose. I said, if you don't get down there, I'm not going to get on the air. Finally, somebody came over because the station went dead for 10 or 15 minutes. And they got us on. She nearly got fired over that deal. But you just never know what's going to happen.
No, you don't. Hey, Jim Weber, this weekend, folks, it's broadcast number, it's game number 6,000 for this Hall of Famer. Got to take a break, Jim. Real quick one. You know how that works. This is like between innings. He's Jim Weber. We're back with more on Leading Edge right after this.